This question, the next question is from Martha, and it's I'm skipping to it because I think it's kind of a nice continuation question. I noticed when I place my hand on the practice chanter, my right thumb is correct. So, but on the pipes, it's too high. How do I correct this? So what is correct thumb position on the right hand? Let's start with that. Correct position is, generally speaking, right under the middle finger. Correct position. Now, you could go as far down as halfway between the middle finger and the ring finger. But any lower than that and the position would be too low. And then some pipers play with the thumb way up here under the pointer finger, which is also not correct. Now, the reason has to do with how your hand is going to do everything it needs to do, right? That's the reasoning behind this. If your thumb's up too high, you're not going to have control over the bottom fingers very well. Okay. And again, this is exactly like the pinky thing. Are there some great pipers who play with a high thumb? Yes. But we're not going to teach it that way because it tends to lend itself to a lot of bottom hand coverage problems. It would be interesting, Martha, when your thumb is up too high, do you have coverage problems on the bottom hand when it does creep up too high on the pipes? I wonder. Just, yeah, interesting, right? That's part of the reason why. And then some pipers play with the really low thumb. You know, somebody told me yesterday, my pipe major tells me it has to be underneath the ring finger or lower or whatever. And that's my pipe major. Like, that's just not. Now, there are exceptions to that rule too. Like Angus McCall, for example, plays with a very low thumb. It's really kind of remarkable. But that definitely, like, I can feel that just makes my hand feel bad. And now maybe it's, you know, now there are going to be exceptions to every rule, but that's too low. And then the other thing that happens with a super low thumb is now we don't have the control over the top portion of our hand the way we want to. And our D grace notes tend to become really big because we don't have that pinch ability when our thumb is way down here. It's going to be way harder to kind of pinch with that D finger. So that's what correct posture is. Now, when Martha switches to the pipes, her right thumb goes too high. Okay. Now, why does that happen on the pipes and not on the practice chanter?
Bag position or posture of the pipes.
Yeah, blow pipe too long. Blow pipe too long.
Yeah.
So we talked about this recently on the question and answer show. So chances are your chanter is just too low, right? So the chanter should be, right? The middle of your chanter should align with your solar plexus, right? I don't know if you could see that. Camera issues, right? But if it becomes lower, our thumb is going to have a lot harder time, you know, going down where it needs to, and it'll end up high. So that's just, what do you think, Martha? Do you think your chanter is maybe too low overall with your bagpipe posture? Is that a possibility? Yes, that is
it. Nailed it. And here's another tip, Martha, just to sort of keep track of that once you fix the problem. You can put like a little grain of sand or something under a piece of tape. So it gives you just that tiny little reference point to where like the ideal position is. And you can feel it on your chanter. So just on the very back, take a grain of salt or sand or something and just put a piece of tape over it and stick it on in the right position. It gives you a little tactile something to.
I use a rolled up piece of tape. Like I roll a little piece of tape and then put a piece of tape over it. So for the people who want to know more about that, we teach the 4 non-negotiables of bagpipe posture early in the transition to the bagpipes course.
Yeah.
You got to check that out. It's super important, right? There's 4 things we have to get right to have great posture. And the sad thing, Martha, is that I wasn't born 10 years earlier or something, right? For somebody like me to come out and say, these are the 4 non-negotiables, because I think it's going to be hard to correct your posture issues now because you've been playing for so long, right? So it's going to be harder to correct it than it would have been to learn it from scratch. Even if you don't take the whole course, Martha, just get up to that posture part. But there's 4 things, right? Blowpipe length and positioning. Then there is the chanter position, where it should be positioned relative to your body. Then there's the bass drone angle and making sure that it rests on the collarbone. And finally, there's making sure that your left arm is not impinged by your pipe bag. Those 4 things are little check boxes that need to be checked off in order to be successful on a variety of fronts, one of which is hand positioning and being able to get good technique to come out on our pipes. And then there's all sorts of aspects pertaining to tonal production as well, where posture is just so important.